Lat B, where MMA and UFC get silly. This is the Lat B Podcast.
Welcome back to Lat B MMA Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Emmanuel, here with the best co-hostess, production person I could ever hope for in the world. Cheney throwing it down, getting it all going smooth after a whole 15-fight card. How was your last weekend with that historic event? Second time we've only ever done that in the UFC.
I went 13 of 15. My Tapology says 12 of 15, but everybody knows that I did not have Darren Till in that fight. So I accidentally put it, and I sure as shit wouldn't have had Darren Till KO round 3. That's what I did have, Robert Whittaker KO round 3. So that would have made me 13 of 15. I did killer. My picks were killer. My Draftkings was killer. I didn't make a parlay. I did have Grundy in a parlay that I really was hoping I was going to be wrong on that. I made and everybody else in the parlay came out. Nope, didn't. Till was in the parlay too. So it is what it is. I lost one parlay, but I did great on DraftKings.
Hey, it's the way it goes.
How'd you do?
The way it goes, definitely on the plus money puestas. We ended up going 0-2 on the plus money with my girl Betchy. Throwing it down, still showing a good, showing for herself. Panny really coming in with a lot of volume and just showing the much better boxing. Those last 10 seconds of round number 1 really gave away for my girl Betchy in there. The second line of that being, Jake Collier. I should have seen that nonstop just like before. There's no light heavyweights, especially 85ers, that go up to heavyweight, or no one who's gone up to heavyweight recently who's done well. Vellante, all these guys that I'm like, oh, they're going to have better chins and better cardio. As soon as they get in there, they feel real heavyweight power, and it's over. It was a 3-4 punch combination for Aspinall there. I'm still not so high on Aspinall. I still think he's gone through a lot of...
Not everyone's Daniel Cormier.
Cupcakes.
Not everyone's Daniel Cormier.
Correct. Or even Country Nelson, Big Country.
Oh, yeah. See, that's before my time. I got to see Big Country right at the tail end of his UFC life.
Yeah, but still, he was there 85er, but he was one of the few to be able to really transition that over. But we have all sorts of fun fights that are coming off of this. It was Chimaev is the number 1 name. He's already getting contract to come over to the United States and start fighting in August. So how do you feel about probably the biggest issue or the biggest talking story of that entire 15-card bout has been Chimaev, as far as I'm concerned? What do you think?
I'm not as deep into UFC news as you are, but the only UFC news I've seen has been about Chimaev. They're calling him Khabib 2, smash this, I smash you, I smash that. I've seen the thing where they've had Chimaev talking about the fights he wants, and then they have Khabib with the Nate Diaz, you're taking everything I work for, motherfucker. Which I think is kind of funny. The only other news I did see that is Khabib Gaethje official for October, but that's so far off to me than the world we're living in. I'm like, is that real?
Absolutely the truth, and it is one that can't wait to end up watching, but we are so heavy. We have 4 events in the month of August. We got 3 or 4 after that. They might squeeze in a couple Dana White Contender Series fights as well. So we are busy as far as MMA. A lot of other sports wish they are going to be where we're at, but I ain't hating it. This quarantine isn't so bad all of a sudden when I can fill up my Saturdays with some 6 hours of fights. And the pacing that they did for those 15 fights, do that for your 10, 11, and 13 card bouts.
Real quick, just in the YouTube chat, Muay Thai 23 says, yo, it's Joey Benavidez. Do you think it's really Joey B?
No way.
No way?
Joey B would be a wrestler before he would be a Muay Thai guy.
Boom. So you think he'd be wrestling 23? Would be if it was the real Joey B?
Absolutely. Somewhere, grappler, something like that. It wouldn't be Muay Thai. It's not his first by any means whatsoever.
If I were Joey B, my handle would be,
Megan O'Leary.
I was kind of thinking along the lines, but maybe like, please, Megan, don't leave me. Or something along those lines. But what up, Muay Thai 23? Shout out.
What's up, catfish? So, as far as the pacing,
they're calling you.
I felt like
Muay Thai 23 is calling you Joey B. I told you you look like Joey B. I told you you look like Joey B.
I got me a little O'Leary at home for sure.
You got a little O'Leary.
Absolutely.
You got your little O'Leary.
Absolutely in there. So thanks for the compliment. My chin's better though, so I guess that's something.
I bet you could knock Joey B out.
Well, I definitely got like 4 or 5 weight classes above him, so that would make a little sense. But I'm sure he would wrap into a pretzel way before I was able to touch that little fast guy. So,
sorry, back to it.
Back to the pacing, though. How they were coming out with fighters without even walkout songs. Like, they were just interviewing, the live interview, into the announcer talking about announcing the fighters right before we got into the fight. I was really digging that. I don't think I've noticed that pace before.
It would have to be hella fast. It was the biggest fight card I ever seen in my life. 15?
Sure.
15? But I'm one of the people that gets to it. I don't mind you having a couple workups here and there for the main card because it has to be like the 2 hours long or whatever for advertising. But, or even show the quick knockouts from earlier in the night, but gets to it. I fall asleep when they take too much time in between. And there was enough decisions mixed with some submissions and knockouts that it was just peppered enough. Can you imagine a 15-card fight night with all decisions? Like the fight card we had the week before?
Oh, man, that would be a nightmare. Nightmare. Even though I love fights, sometimes it does get a little tedious in there just kind of watching grappling because it usually turns into just grappling matches when that type of stuff happens. But we've talked enough about that. We got 11 card bout coming up here.
Have you been watching
Apex
anything?
Center in Las Vegas.
Before we get into it?
As far as TV shows and movies? Oh, I've been watching tons.
What?
Absolutely tons. Of course, that Netflixies has got me all sorts of messed up.
Tell me something good.
I have a soft spot for disabled people, as you know, and autistic dating site. It'll make you want to, suck it up a little bit there. It is definitely.
Did you ever get down with that TV show's Vikings? Did you ever watch Vikings?
No, and everybody tells me to do Vikings, and I have not.
I actually didn't. It's like that one historical period where I really lack knowledge or too much interest. I don't know what it is. But my wife is in love with that period of time. So apparently the Vikings, where that left off, there's another show called The Last Kingdom, which kind of picks up where that is. And since I'm a conspiracy head and now I'm all into pagan symbolism, it's all really where pagan and Christianity, like the battles of the certain kings that happened then. It's kind of, I've looked away from my Black Mirrors a few times while she's added on, but that's been the only other thing in my life that I can discuss without getting us pulled off YouTube.
The other one that sounds like a good one. I need to try either one of those out. The other one was Dark. It's in season 3. As far as Netflix, that one is a European one dubbed over in English, but mystery type of supernatural stuff.
Into it.
So
all right, I'll
check
stop.
That one out. Definitely check those out.
I'll stop holding
the 11 card.
The fight card. Is it just 11?
The 11. It is just going to be 11. We've had some movement all over this card, some short notice replacements added in this post-COVID world, as we know. It's going to be UFC Fight Night, Brunson versus Shahbazyan. They used to number these. I don't even know what's going on. It's probably Apex 4 by point, and then, yeah. So you'll have all sorts of fun names to figure out eventually with these Contender Series fights around the corner, like we were saying before. But you know how we always do it around here. We start from the bottom to the top. It ain't going to change. We're starting off at 135 pounds with debuting Cody Duran coming in against Chris Gutierrez. Gutierrez being 15-3-1 against 11-2 Duran. Duran is coming off of the NFC Valor Fighters. He has quite a bit of submissions and TKOs. Who is it? He's got a couple decision losses, I believe a submission in there. In this spot, Durden comes in as much more of a wrestler. He likes to get it down. His hands are good, but they're a little bit slow. He's a little looping in his punches. He likes to get that double leg and start to grind on top. That'll open up some of his submission attempts. He has quite a bit of pressure, but after that first round, even on the regional scene, he does slow down, as does his opponent. So this is definitely a fight for that he was offered against anyone in the UFC because it's at Apex, and they're like, all right, let's do it. And he would have fought anyone, but with an 11-2 record against some of the opponents I saw him against, 0-6 in there, 6-2, 10-3. I just feel like here Gutierrez, if he doesn't get taken down, he's by far the better striker, and why we usually like him here at Latby. He's good on the outside, has great leg kicks, but I've used him as my plus money puesta before, as my underdog, and I have never sweated so much in my life with Gutierrez. His fight IQ is very limited.
He's a
really
Mexican
is. There's times
boxer.
where I'm
He
like,
has that
oh,
style.
man.
Like, he's just grinding to the point of it's almost like he doesn't stop. I like the ring IQ part, because you're almost like, take a breather, homie, step back for a second, reevaluate. It's like something goes screwy in the latter rounds.
Absolutely in there. It's just, I don't know if it's that level that I know it's not enough level to be even up in that top rank, because there's just adjustments that I don't see Gutierrez making there. He really sticks to his fundamentals, and that's a great calf and leg kick mixed in with some hands, but it's really Gutierrez's kicks. Now, the fact that really it has me hesitant on Gutierrez, who's a decided favorite for a reason here, is we've seen it in a lot of his fights so far with the kick-heavy game. It only takes one or two checks, and he already has those ankles so wrapped up that he will, in the corner, be like, yeah, my ankle. Again, my ankle. He's had multiple surgeries on both of those, and they're his biggest attribute. And once those start to go, the movement's a little limited, and that's maybe why I like to think that his IQ isn't so good. It might be just the fact that he's really feeling the checks on his ankles, and, he's already a very weathered fighter at 29 years old. But here against the American top team Atlanta fighter, he's going to have an uphill battle. I think Gutierrez can stuff a lot of the takedowns that Duran throws in there because they're a little telegraphed, and we've seen Gutierrez fend off better takedowns. And standing-wise, it's Gutierrez leaps and bounds. Give me the favorited fighter, Chris Gutierrez, minus 350. That's a crazy price tag. I don't think I can be that confident in Gutierrez, as I'm saying. So I like him. I don't know what I'm going to do on Draftkings with him yet. What do you think? What side are you going to be on for this first fight of the night?
I don't like the flash submission chance for Durden against Gutierrez. I don't like the idea of how high a prospect Gutierrez is over Durden here. I don't like him this much of a favorite. He's an underdog fighter for me. I like him as an underdog fighter. I don't know how many points he's going to lay out, and I don't see a finish on his side. I actually see a flash submission coming for Durden more than I see Gutierrez getting a knockout. So I have Gutierrez decision because he's the guy with all the MMA hour or the UFC hours, and that means a lot to me. The competition he's gone against is leaps and bounds higher. But unless he puts on some sort of striking clinic where he's laying out 80, 90 points, for that kind of weight, there's no way he's worth it on DraftKings.
On DraftKings, 9,200 against Duran's debuting 7,000 even. I totally agree with you. It's hard. Gutierrez is much more of a decision fighter. I know he did finish Morales via leg kicks, but that was also because Morales had some of the lowest fight IQ we've seen in there ever. So can't take too much away from that. I also see the decision, but out of both fighters, Gutierrez is the play for me. We usually tell you guys to stay away, but with one of these guys, Gutierrez, for me being such more weathered in there, I'd put him on 10% of cards, Duran on 0, just because I feel like he has a little more ceiling as far as DraftKings. Duran can do something, but I'm not confident in this one.
I think put Gutierrez where you can afford him. Don't waste your money on him early. It's the first fight of the night. It's too early. It's like too early for you to even have a 72 on your card for the first fight of the night. You're like, hopefully for the wins, you want those 90s, 100s, 130s. So I think Gutierrez, once you get to the end of your card, if you have a ton of money left over, get Gutierrez in a few spots. Otherwise, avoid it. It's not worth the price tag.
That's high-level breakdown. That's why you guys come here to listen to us, because that is the best point on that fight. Absolutely. Then we move on to 145 pounds.
I feel like
we have
you
Jamal.
Give people like a bunch of the reels. I always throw in the tangibles. You always have the truth. I have a bunch of what ifs. Oh, you know what? Real quick.
Intangibles that, yes.
We love the judging in the Apex Center, and the thing you said first. Now everyone repeats it like common knowledge. We love that 25-foot octagon.
Absolutely, what I was about to say. One thing that does change the level of finishes, or the amount of finishes, I feel like in cards, has been that octagon. So it's going to be tougher to get in a decision a lot. Not as much room to move laterally in there. You got to get in that pocket and strike it out or grapple. So fun one ahead of us at 145 pounds with returning Jamal Emmers coming in against debuting Timur Valiev. Valiev being a 16-2 fighter, fighting out of the PFL, also out of the guerrilla fight scene, has some high-level competition in there, some really good opponents. He is at 30 years old, a prospect because he hasn't been in the UFC yet, but as far as his MMA acumen in general, he's well-rounded everywhere. He can put you away standing as much as grappling. He is an Ali Abdesli's disciple. He's been kind to him a while, so very specific matchups Ali tends to get in there. That's why he's getting even a little more love, I feel like, than he should, being a debut fighter. But against Jamal Emmers, who's lost his only UFC fight, the line's probably right, and it's probably going to get steamed up even more at a -200 for Valiev, though. He just got a better pace, solid chin. Will take it down if he starts losing on the ground or striking. He can keep it up there. I just see the kind of forward momentum constantly be on Valiev's side. He pushes you up against the fence and just doesn't let you get off a lot. And against Jamal Emmers, who I had against Giga Chikadze, losing a split decision, Emmers has everything he needs to at 17-5 to be able to finish a lot of high-level opponents in the UFC. He has power. He has that fast twitch muscle. He can wrestle. He can grapple. His submissions aren't tone on point, even though he has a couple triangle chokes and stuff. It's just he's somebody that even in the third round, Jamal Emmers has gotten lucky or just had that good fight IQ to throw up a high-risk move and still be able to land it. But against a lot of his opponents, looking back at it and looking at Giga Chikadze, Emmers will get stuck like Gutierrez at times, where Emmers will end up giving away rounds by just standing in front of your opponent and throwing one heavy shot instead of trying to just constantly work. And in throwing that one heavy shot, I feel like Emmers is going to be lining up that heavy 1-2, and Valiev is going to counter that with not only strikes or come in with that heavy takedown. And Emmers can fight off takedowns, but he by far has the worst gas tank out of both fighters. So I see why everyone's picking the favorite. It makes a lot of sense here. Emmers is just kind of might go 2 maybe, or 0-2, maybe 0-3 in the UFC and get on out of here. It's that fight IQ that you can't trust. Give me Valiev in a decision, but I think it's going to be decided 30-27. Valiev.
How much better do you think Chikadze is than Valiev?
Valiev would be Chikadze.
All I'm gonna go against like Emmers. I just know a little more about him. He didn't necessarily show me enough to be UFC caliber, but going to split decision is something to me. These guys out of Russia, especially an Ali Abdelaziz guy, like you're telling me, he's the kind of manager I'd want. I want hand-selected fights all the way up to my way to the top of my skill set, why I get better in the things that I'm the weakest at. So, yeah, he also knows how to get his fighters paid. He knows how to get the fight bonuses, which I wonder if the manager gets part of your fight bonus or just part of the making of
10%. 10% of whatever that is. 10, 15%. It doesn't matter.
I wonder if
it's 10%
if they get
of
part
7.
of their Twitch channels, or I wonder if it's everything.
That's a little different. That depends on the contract that they are. Some of them do that external stuff, but
give me
if
Valiev.
the fighters are smart, they don't.
Give me Valiev decision. I'm going to stay away from this fight too. I don't know who these people are.
On DraftKings, the minus 200 favorite Valiev is 8,400 against Jamal Emmers 7,800. I actually like Valiev here out of both fighters, as we were talking about before. I think he's the one that's a bit more likely to finish, even though Emmers has that one punch type of power. I just think Valiev doesn't allow that to happen and just stays in his face too much. With that, I think Valiev has a much more consistent wrestling game. It's just was shown off in the PFL and a lot of his other matches.
Are you nervous at all that we don't see points on DraftKings given by wrestling? We don't see points on transitions. Sucks. We don't see if a guy's not laying hands and kicks and takedowns of some sort. We do see points in takedowns. If they're not doing this other kind of stuff, are you nervous that he might be a low scorer even as a winner? If he's a wrestling.
I feel like Valiev, even if it's for him, I think his average is going to be pretty high because he does have a lot of return takedowns as well, and he does throw a lot of ground and pound. It's not heavy shots, but it's that constant Mirab type of, I'm just throwing just to keep you not being able to breathe or think in there.
So you think there's a value in Valiev?
I do think for 8,400, he's one of the guys that I'm going to be actually higher on, and he's somebody that I feel like I can get salary relief and allow me to pick some of these higher favorited guys with a good potential for not only grappling output, but also that finish as I'm talking about.
So you think a good
that's
value
a fun one. Absolutely value for that spot.
You can pick the cord out of your shit later, that Cordy. I just am like, I have to figure it out.
Anything left with those 145ers?
No!
One specific thing. I do believe Valiev's moving down from 55 and Emmers is moving up from 35.
Oh, then I might put Valiev. That is a thing to tell me. I'm all about the bigger guy.
So, just so you know, that you can look into their background.
Yeah, it looks like Valiev's going up to 145, and that's what Emmers fights at 145. Okay. So Valiev's the smaller guy.
Oh, did I get it backwards? And Emmers is moving down from 55. He might have had some of those 55 matchups.
Yeah, he could have had that. So I think weigh-ins, that's a good fight to pay attention to weigh-ins because size does matter. So
we are going to definitely see a fun one in there. On to 185 pounds. We have Marcus Maluco Perez coming in against Eric Spicely. One of your favorites for a long time
here. I thought he was
gone. He did leave. He came in short notice against Darian Wynn and had his strike record set on his face at light middleweight for most strikes landed on an individual. So Spicely, we know what we're getting. Kind of solid chin. Zero gas tank. After about first round, maybe 2 minutes into the second round. After that, Spicely's hands on his hips throwing. Luckily for him, against Wynn. Wynn also absolutely gassed in there, so he wasn't able to get finished. But I feel like that last loss to Wynn was probably Spike Lee's best performance in the UFC, and it's a loss. So Spike Lee has some upset finishes for sure throughout his career, but he's just somebody who doesn't have a ton of power on the ground. He's a high-level black belt. He has great triangles and guillotines down there, but he's outpositioned a lot by mid-level wrestlers. Guys with a little bit of knowledge can really just stuff him and just stay on top and win a decision, and it's just that gas tank for Spike Lee that can't trust him anywhere, and he's never improved it at 33 years old. Even in his other regional fights that he's won, he was still dog-tired in there. And against Marcus Perez, a 12-3 standout, has coming off of a loss to Wellington Thurman in a decision. Thurman being a little more underrated than we thought, beating Anthony Hernandez, losing to Sanchez. He's definitely also got a loss against Eric Anders in there, and those tended to be wrestling type of matchups, grinders in there that really pushed the pace on Maluko. Maluko has tons of power. He's shown it in many, many fights, but even on the ground, he's a good level black belt. He's got some really sneaky finishes in there against some high level competition, throwing some really weird high elbow guillotines, or not triangles necessarily, but he's got front headlock series that are definitely tight. Here, I think Perez just comes in with too much firepower. I think he's got a better gas tank on a decision a whole lot more and still holds that power in the third round. I think he can turn Spike Lee into a punching bag, and if they get to the ground, Perez has shown against other good grapplers that not only is he a submission danger, but he can get out of very dangerous spots. So here, give me Marcus Perez all over in a decision. If there's a finish as well, I think it goes to Perez at the decided favorite here. It's going to be hard to get me to pick Spike Lee in a fight ever. So who do you have in this one?
I think Eric Spike Lee figures out really quickly that he's going to get picked apart on the feet, and he's going to go to the ground, and Perez is going to follow him there. I think Perez's strength is going to get him a few submission attempts on the ground, but Eric Spike Lee is smart enough and does have good submission defense that he's just going to hold the wrist, take an elbow, hold the wrist, take a few body shots, hold the wrist, lose transition moves a few times. He'll do everything right on the ground while he slowly gets pieced apart by Perez. In the second round, I think we're going to see Marcus Perez get a knockout. And it's not because Marcus Perez is a knockout guy at all. It's just Eric Spicey's kind of a quitter. He has shit cardio, like you say, and he's not really great anywhere. So I feel like he's going to realize Perez is stronger on the ground and try to stand for that little bit of time. Perez's corner is going to tell him, stay on your feet, dude. This guy doesn't want any part of you on your feet. And he's going to maybe body shot, some uppercuts or something. So I would never normally have Marcus Perez as a knockout guy. But he's getting better everywhere. And Eric Spike Lee, ahead of time, get on out of here.
Definitely in that spot for Spike Lee. On DraftKings, the minus 205 favorite, Marcus Maluko Perez, is 8,500 against Spike Lee 7,700. It's a Perez or stay away favorite. No dog here. Spike Lee nowhere. At 8.5, this is also really tough to put Perez in spots, even though I like him out of the two getting the finish. His average is 55 points on DraftKings. If he gets 60, 70 points, it still doesn't pay off that 8.5. He has to get a finish in there pretty much in order to pay that off. So I'm going to probably end up steering clear of this one altogether. I see a decision in tow. What do you think you're going to do on DraftKings?
I'm not going to go too heavy on Perez either. And no offense to him, he has to show me a little more. He hasn't done anything to woo me in the UFC. So I will continue to watch him. I will enjoy watching him fight, but he will not be a guy to make it on my betting cards anytime soon. I might play him on, if I play 6 cards, I'll put him on 1, maybe 2.
I like that. I'm going to be in that 10% range as well. Very low owned for Perez, but out of the two, that's the way you got to play. Then at 135 pounds, we have debuting Nathan Manis coming in against Ray Borg, the 11-1 fighter. Manis is coming off of a win against the camp. Prior to that, he only has lost to Taylor Lapalus via body kick. only UFC competition he's ever had, and Lapalus couldn't make it in the UFC, so maybe there's an indicator there. I was reading some information on Manis that he was about to retire from MMA because he was unable to find fights on the regional scene. And yes, it's tough to find fights right now, but for everybody, if you're not the UFC, it's tough to find fights because Bama and Naga and all those other organizations aren't going at all. So yeah, everyone's kind of in that spot that people are turning away stuff. Maybe I'm being a little too generalized there, but either way, Manis comes in with a journeyman type of game plan. He's good. He's a serviceable striker. He's a serviceable wrestler. He has submissions. He doesn't really have TKO power in there, but he's someone that has finished guys and gone to decision. I mean, there wasn't a bit of tape that really stood out anywhere for me. He doesn't do anything too tricky. He just kind of stays in your face, gets on you. And when he sees a little bit of trickier guys like Taylor Lapalus, you could see where he was outclassed that whole fight. And Lapalus really put it on him. And that's a guy who can't make it in the UFC as well. A lot of people are still iffy, has MI on Ray Borg because he's somebody that we have to wait for weigh-ins to see what's going to go on. We know what happens with this 13-5 in his UFC history. Former title contender, went 5 rounds with DJ, top-notch wrestling. The Taz Mexican Devil in there has had tons of issues in and out of the cage, not only making weight but with family. Is he also an Ali guy? I feel like he is an Ali guy.
I think you're right.
Ray Borg here.
I know that Brendan Schaub helped with his kid.
That's right. He did pay for him.
Brendan helped with my kid. So did a lot of other people. Thank you. Brendan's a good guy. He's the only one that went public about it that I keep having to mention his name. Ray Borg said it a lot classier than that, but that was funny.
That's a great pickup there. The 29, or here we go with the 26-year-old on Borg. We know what we're going to get with him. He's not changing anything up. He couldn't take down Ricky Simone, and when we saw a better grappler really get in there, we saw the boxing come out for Borg, but it wasn't super high level. Not tons of power, just kind of a good pace. For Madsen, I think that's going to be more than enough to be able to beat him. He is moving down to 35 from 45, so we got to see the weight cut for him, whether he makes it, because it is his debut as well. Always ultra sketched on Borg. Here, I'm going to be a little... I feel...
No! Oh, there you're
top notch compared.
Oh, you said you feel something on Borg, and then you went out for a minute.
Decision, Ray Borg. I think it's 30-27, easy, everywhere. Who do you think you're taking in this one?
So I too think Ray Borg is going to, I know you're feeling not as confident. I feel pretty confident in Ray Borg that he's just going to throw around Manis like a sack of potatoes the entire time. There's the clip that they always show of UFC of Khabib pounding on that wrestling dummy, and that's kind of what I think Ray Borg's going to do in this fight. Once he gets him down once, the fight will be over quickly in the first round. I think it's going to be 30-27, 30-26. I don't know how much Ray Borg's going to be here, and I don't know if he's usually a high scorer on Draftkings. I think the takedowns are going to come quicker. I think they're going to come more frequent if Manis does get up in the first round, and I think Ray Borg's pretty safe here. I think he's a good play, which I'm not usually heavy on Borg, but he makes a lot of sense to me.
Ray Borg ends up being the decided favorite here at minus 245 against the plus 205. Madsen, 9,000 even on DraftKings for Borg against 7,200.
What's his average score?
For Ray Borg is 70 points. So he can reach that, especially against the level of opponent of Madsen. I like what you're saying. It's Borg or pass here. And I think for that, I think he can pay that off. I mean, Madsen is not at that level. Ray Borg should be able to manhandle him pretty much everywhere.
Speaking of corny jokes, I saw that you saw my little corny where online where somebody was like, "Do you know Borg?" And I was like, "Ray Borg?"
Yes, that was awesome.
Yeah, you're the only person on that whole site that got it.
That's funny.
Yeah, I mean, laugh. That's stupid. Real quick, your picture's out, so it's just Zep. Your video's
Okay.
out. So I don't know if you can maybe just click the video button, click it again. Maybe it'll come back on right in the Discord. Oh, yep. It's
Back on?
reloading. Back on. I'll tell you it quicker next time, but you didn't lose your audio. Oh, it went off again.
Yeah, my Wi-Fi is no. It keeps saying it's off, but it's not.
Bum, 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 bum. Here you come again. Back again. Now you're there.
All right, I'm getting
All
the
right.
reception. All right.
Perfect.
So
Back again.
while we're live,
it's always
we should
fine
move
when I'm
on to
talking to
250 or 205 pounds with Ed Herman coming in against GM3 Gerald Mershart, better known as Meatballs, here on the show. He's definitely coming off with a 31-13 record, win one, lose one for a while, coming off of a loss to Ian Heinisch TKO. Oof. Huge overhand right, got it done in there. But prior to that, he beat Darren Wynn, losing to Anders, beating Trevin Giles, losing to Holland in a split decision, which I think he won. But GM3, now we're getting okay.